The morning rush at First National Bank moved like clockwork, well-dressed professionals clutching phones, expensive suits rustling past marble columns. No one noticed the elderly man who shuffled through the brass doors. Arthur Lane looked every inch the forgotten soul. His gray hair needed cutting, his wool coat showed patches from too many winters, and his leather shoes bore cracks that spoke of long walks on short budgets. Behind wire-rimmed glasses, sharp blue eyes surveyed the bustling lobby with quiet patience. He took his place in the teller line. The whisper started immediately. "What's he doing here?" A woman in pearls muttered to her companion. "Probably lost," came the reply. "Poor thing." When Arthur reached the counter, the young teller, her nameplate read Melissa, barely looked up from her computer screen. "Can I help you?" Her voice carried the practiced sweetness of someone who'd already decided you weren't worth her time. Arthur's weathered hands slid a worn passbook across the marble counter. "I need to make a withdrawal, please." Melissa glanced at the faded booklet and snorted. She tilted her screen toward her colleague, Sarah, who peered over with obvious amusement. "Sir," Melissa said, loud enough for nearby customers to hear, "this account has a balance of $17.32. Are you sure you're at the right bank?" Laughter rippled through the line. Arthur's cheeks flushed, but his voice remained steady. "Yes, I'm sure." "Well, I suppose we can spare a few minutes for our economy customers." More chuckles. "How much of that fortune would you like to withdraw?" The humiliation was deliberate, performed for an audience that ate it up. Arthur's hands trembled slightly as he retrieved his passbook. "All of it," he said quietly. "Big spender," someone whispered behind him. As Arthur counted out the crumpled bills, his shoulders sagged under the weight of their mockery. He pocketed the money, turned toward the exit, then paused. For just a moment, something flickered across his weathered features, not defeat, but calculation. "Thank you," he said, meeting Melissa's eyes. "I'll remember this." That evening, Arthur sat in his modest apartment surrounded by photographs. His late wife Eleanor smiled from their wedding day. His daughter Katie beamed as a child, pigtails flying. But beneath them all lay another photo, a younger Arthur in an expensive suit, standing before a gleaming bank building with First National emblazoned across its facade. From a locked filing cabinet, he withdrew a thick folder marked Personal Holdings. Inside were documents most people would never see. Incorporation papers, stock certificates, trust agreements. The financial labyrinth he'd constructed 50 years ago still stood, invisible but unshakable. After Eleanor's death and Katie's estrangement, Arthur had retreated from public life. The world assumed he'd lost everything in medical bills and poor investments. They were wrong. His fortune hadn't vanished. It had simply gone underground, hidden in shell companies and carefully structured trusts. He'd planned to take his secrets to the grave, but today's humiliation had changed everything. "They've forgotten whose name built their walls," he murmured, tracing the edge of his old photograph. "Time to remind them." The next morning brought the usual chaos to First National. Melissa regaled her co-workers with yesterday's entertainment. "You should have seen his face," she laughed. "I thought the old man might actually cry." Branch manager Greg Henson overheard from his glass office. Instead of concern, he showed approval. "Good work. We can't have every vagrant thinking they belong here. This is a prestige institution." They didn't notice Arthur enter the lobby, still wearing yesterday's coat, still carrying his battered briefcase. A few customers recognized him and smirked, expecting another show. But this time, Arthur walked past the teller windows, past the waiting area, straight into Greg Henson's office. Greg looked up, annoyed. "Sir, this is a private office. You'll need to..." Arthur set his briefcase on the polished desk and opened it with deliberate care. He withdrew a thick manila envelope and placed it before the manager. "My name is Arthur Lane," he said quietly. "As of 9 o'clock this morning, I am the majority owner of this bank." Greg's laugh died in his throat. "Excuse me?" Arthur opened the envelope, revealing notarized documents bearing official seals. 50 years ago, I founded the investment group that built this branch. When I stepped back from public life, everyone assumed I'd sold my holdings. I never did. The manager's face cycled through confusion, disbelief, and dawning horror as he scanned the legal papers. This is some kind of scam. The law firm of Morrison, Chen, and Associates verified everything this morning. You're welcome to call them. Arthur's voice carried new authority. Yesterday, your employee humiliated me for having $17. Today, I'm here to discuss some personnel changes. Through the glass walls, the lobby had gone quiet. Staff and customers alike pressed closer, straining to hear the conversation that would reshape everything they thought they knew. Greg stumbled to his feet, papers scattered. Mr. Lane, surely we can discuss. There's nothing to discuss. Arthur's tone cut like winter wind. Miss Hartley will be terminated immediately with cause. Her replacement will be someone who understands that respect isn't contingent on account balance. Melissa's face drained of color as Greg's panicked gesture summoned her to the office. She entered with false confidence that crumbled the moment Arthur turned those sharp blue eyes on her. Yesterday, you asked if I was at the right bank, Arthur said. Today, I'm asking you the same question, because as of now, you no longer work here. The lobby erupted in whispers. Some customers looked satisfied. They'd witnessed Melissa's contempt for others. Others seemed stunned by the dramatic reversal. You can't just, Melissa began. I can, and I am. Arthur pulled out another document. This is a new policy directive. Every customer, whether they deposit $17 or $17 million, will be treated with dignity and respect. Failure to comply results in immediate termination. Greg swallowed hard. Sir, perhaps we should discuss this privately. Number, let everyone hear. Arthur's voice carried to every corner of the lobby. I built this institution to serve the community, not to mock its members. That changes now. As security escorted Melissa out, Arthur stood in the center of the lobby, no longer the broken old man from yesterday. The expensive suits and designer handbags suddenly seemed less important than the quiet dignity he commanded. An elderly woman near the information desk began clapping slowly. Others joined her, first tentatively, then with growing enthusiasm. Not everyone applauded, but those who did understood they'd witnessed something rare. Justice, served cold but served complete. Arthur raised his hand for quiet. This bank will operate differently from now on. We'll judge customers by their character, not their credit scores. We'll offer respect as freely as we offer services, and we'll remember that every person who walks through those doors deserves to be treated like they matter. He gathered his papers and walked toward the exit, then paused at the threshold. Oh, and Mr. Henson? Greg looked up from his ruined career. Clean out your office? I'll be interviewing new management starting Monday. That evening, Arthur returned to his quiet apartment and opened his photo album. He lingered over the picture of Katie, taken years ago before their relationship soured over money and misunderstandings. He picked up his phone and dialed her number for the first time in 3 years. Katie? It's Dad. A pause. I know it's been a while. I was wondering, would you like to have lunch tomorrow? I have something to tell you about the bank, about what I've been doing with my life. Her voice was cautious but not cold. Dad, are you okay? Better than I've been in years, Arthur said, looking at his reflection in the window. I finally remembered who I used to be. And maybe it's time to figure out who I want to become. In a world obsessed with appearances, we often forget that true worth can't be measured by designer labels or bank balances. Arthur Lane walked into that bank looking like someone to be dismissed and walked out as someone impossible to ignore. His story reminds us that everyone carries invisible histories, hidden strengths, and untold stories. The homeless veteran might have saved lives in war. The struggling single mother might be one semester from a law degree. The elderly man counting change might own the very ground you stand on. Respect costs nothing to give but everything to withhold. And sometimes, just sometimes, the universe has a sense of humor about collecting what's owed. Be careful whom you underestimate. Today's forgotten soul might hold tomorrow's keys.